Welcome to Authors Alcove. I am your host, Agnes Wolf. Today I have award-winning author in both romantic comedy and romantic suspense, Lolo Paige. She has been honored with several awards, including an RWA Chapter Award for her romantic comedy, Hello, Spain, Goodbye Heart, released by the Wild Rose Press. Her books have topped Amazon bestseller lists in the US, Canada, and Australia. Alaska Spark, which is the one that we're mainly going to talk about today, is the recipient of several indie awards for best romance. Publishers Weekly has featured her books in their book life section. Her second book, Alaska Inferno, which I believe is part of the first one, was a finalist for Best Indie Romance in the 2022 Kindle Book Awards. So she has experienced both experience in traditionally published world and the self-published world. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the comparison between the two, as well as a little bit about pen names. We had a nice little talk before, and I was like, hey, let's talk about this. So anyway, welcome, Lolo. How are you today?
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm really having a good morning. The sun is out and the snow has stopped for the time being.
Yeah, you were saying you're in Alaska, hence the book title of your it's currently a trilogy. Is there going to be any more in the series?
Yes, I'm working on there's actually going to be, well, I'm hoping there'll be 12. I'm working towards about 12 in the series. A trilogy in Alaska, then in Montana, and then in California, all the places where I fought fire as a former wildland firefighter.
So I just wanted you to share a little bit about your history about as far as like what got you into the writing world. And also because Lolo Page is a pen name. It's not very far from your real name, but also share because I know those two things are a little bit intertwined.
Yeah, well, long time ago, like all of us when we were kids, my sisters are way older than I am, and one of them kept telling me, well, they both kept telling me that you need to keep going with writing because they'd help me with my homework and my poems and my little essays, and they said, you have a knack for this. Keep doing it the rest of your life, and someday you'll be a writer. And they kept telling me that. Well, um, life happened and I had a career with the federal government and kids. And in the beginning of that career, I was a wildland firefighter. So that's where I draw my personal experiences for those stories. But anyway, yeah, so then flash forward to today, and I lost both my sisters. They were gone from two different diseases. And as a tribute to them, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go with this pen name because Lola was my nickname. They called me that when I was little, and Paige was my maiden name. So, yeah, it just seemed like a natural thing to do. Um, then on the former wildland firefighter route, I worked for the U.S. Forest Service in Missoula, Montana at the smoke jumper base. And so it was a really super influential time of my life. I always tell people the Forest Service made me grow up because I was kind of a clueless, aimless kid, with no direction, just kind of not knowing what I was going to do. And the Forest Service set me straight. So I'm really glad I lucked into that.
So you also talked about that you are going to be writing in a different genre. And one of the things that interested me that you had said was, you have the pen name Lolo Page, and like Agnes Wolf is actually, sorry, that's my little, Agnes Wolf is actually my pen name. And I chose it because my mom, you said you chose it because of your sisters, because my mom is the one that kind of has encouraged me to write. And so it's a tribute to her. But I also write fiction or nonfiction, and I write under my real name. But you mentioned something that was really interesting is that part of the reason why you want to have a different pen name for a different genre is because you don't want to mess with the Amazon algorithms. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Sure. Once I started going to writer conferences in Alaska in the lower 48, and I went to all these sessions that talked about branding, author branding. And working for the federal government all my life, branding was new to me. I mean, I knew people in the private sector were already familiar with that, people who worked in sales and such, but I wasn't. And so I had to figure this branding thing out. So when I started writing in romance, I had branded myself as a romance author. And as I progressed in my series in both romantic comedy and romantic suspense, I was told to watch that also bots line that goes across your book page to see who else was buying similar books and that kind of thing. So Amazon apparently bases their algorithms on a lot of that and how their customers liked yours, and then what else would they like. So Amazon knows what to show them, what to push in front of them to attract them to buy other things. So I went to one workshop where I was told, if you want to write completely different genre, it'd be a good idea to do it under a different pen name in a whole different identity kind of thing, and don't cross the streams, as they say in Ghostbusters. Don't do that. Keep everything separate, because if somebody buys a YA, because my book is a coming of age historical fiction book that I've been wanting to write since I was little, actually. If a customer buys a YA book or a book historical fiction, that'll mess up my whole romance thing, and then Amazon will stop showing my books to other customers. So long story short, keep them separate.
So so your most recent series, or I don't know if it's your most recent series, but it's the one that we were going to talk about today, was the Blazing Hearts Wildfire series, which is actually the Alaskan series. So it's set in your home state. And right now you said it's 3, but you hope to have it to be 12. Can you just share a little bit about the background of that and what inspired it?
Sure. I was on a fire crew in Montana back in my 20s. I'm a lot older than that now. But then oddly enough, I won a free trip to Alaska back in the early 80s. And, and so I came up here to work for the U.S. Bureau of Land Management. Well, I wasn't in firefighting. I was in oil and gas and all these other things. But I had an opportunity to get on another fire crew up here in the summertime. So I did that. And we were based at the Alaska Fire Service up in Fairbanks, Alaska, up in the interior. And I got to go out on some really amazing fires. I mean, some big ones, and of course, a lot of small ones. And a lot of them are remote, so they're not by road. You have to be flown out to them. And that was always fun in a storm where the winds are blowing. But anyway, that, like I said, it was an influential part of my life. And so when I wanted to start writing books, I went to a Writer's Digest conference in Pasadena. She's a super prolific romantic suspense writer. She's written something like 350 books, and she told me that I should put my fire book in the romance genre. And I hadn't read it really. I didn't know how to write romance. So I had to come home and teach myself how to do that. So I went to the library and I read all these romance books. And then I just sat down and I started doing it. Well, I did the one book, and then readers are like going, where's the next one? And I went, what do you mean the next one? And then they're like, well, isn't this a series? And I just went all deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, I got to write a series. So that's how that all started. And what I did was I took real fires I'd worked on and some that I had observed here in Alaska, and I based my fire scenarios on those. And it was easier to write because I knew what happened. I had the newspaper articles, I had all that. And all I had to do was come up with a plot, which was fun. I love doing that. So yeah, so there's 5 books in there right now,
Oh,
3
there's
novels and
5.
2 novellas. Yeah,
Okay.
well, there's 3 novels. I don't count the one because it's a magnet. It's like it's on Book Funnel, and people click on my website and they get this book for free, to join my newsletter. So that's what that is. And then there's another one. Readers are like, because I married off a couple. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning, and I married off this couple at the beginning of my second book down at Alyeska Resort. And these readers are like, but what happened with their story? You didn't give us their story, because it was a side couple, And I went, oh my God, I didn't. So I backed up and I wrote their romance, and that's what the novella became. So yeah, live and learn, don't leave stones unturned when you're writing a romance series, because everybody wants to know when you introduce the supporting cast and their best friends and their brothers and their sisters and their cousins. Readers want those stories of those people. Like Lucy Score does with the Knock 'em Out series. She does a beautiful job doing that. I just finished her first book and I'm hooked because now I want to read about the other side characters.
I'm one of those people who like when
So,
I always
yeah.
choose series because I know that I don't have to say goodbye to the characters as quickly because I want to be able to hold on to those characters for as long as possible. And so I'm more apt to pick out a series than I am um a single book. But anyway, you actually started out as a nonfiction journalistic writer. How is writing fiction different from writing more journalistic style?
It was like going back to kindergarten for me. It was because all my life, with the federal government, I wrote environmental impact statements. I did analytical, technical writing, legal writing. I wrote legal decisions for the government on land transactions and on mineral transactions, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, once I dove into creative writing, it was like starting all over again. The only skill I had was putting a sentence together and grammatical structure because I had to come up with my own deal. Um, so yeah, I kind of went on a tear to learn how to do that. I signed up for every webinar I could get my hands on. I took classes from Jane Friedman, Angela Ackerman, and her emotional thesaurus. I went on their website, One Stop for Writers, and that's how I constructed my first book. I went to conferences and went to sessions that talked about craft and talked about how to figure out how to put a plot together, how to choose your hero archetype. Do you want an underdog? Do you want a superhero? That kind of thing. How to construct a romance. Because as we all know with romance, you can't just have them meet, fall in love, and happily ever after because boring.
Right.
We want them to fight for each other. We want them to go through holy, literal, you know what, to get that romance, that happily ever after in the end. And what did it for me was I watched the Outlander series after reading the books from Diana Gabaldon she lives down there in Scottsdale. When I saw the obstacles she put in her romances, oh my God, I was like, whoa, it's a miracle these two people can even talk to each other, let alone everything else. So she's kind of who got me off my butt and got me going in writing, seriously in romance.
One of the things, I mentioned the difference between fiction and nonfiction, but also you actually did self-publishing and traditionally publishing. And I know that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about, like, should I go this? Should I do that? And which one did you happen to do first?
Well, here's the deal on that. Um, when COVID hit, I had been querying literary agents and I had gone to the conferences and pitched Big Five publishers on my Fire series. And they had asked for the manuscripts. Um, HarperCollins, and I had pitched the Entangled and Carina Press and Harlequin and a lot of those. And they did ask for it. But I came home, and then as I'm querying more agents, COVID hit. And so we had that first lockdown. And I'm like, oh no, oh no. I didn't want to leave the planet because back then none of us knew what was going to happen. I was like, I don't want to leave the planet without publishing. So I had a friend up here in Fairbanks who was running this conference called 20 Books to 50K down in Las Vegas every year. It was the biggest indie book conference on the planet, writers conference. So he told me, he says, do it yourself. Just publish the book yourself. Get it out there. Just get it out there. So I went to that first 20 Books conference. I came home and I published my own book. And yeah, it was kind of scary, but it's like anything else. You teach yourself the platforms. You have to learn all these platforms. You have to learn how to format. So I'd go to Vellum, or I'd go to Atticus, or I'd go to Draft to Digital, and I learned how to format my book. And then you master that, and then you go to Book Funnel and you figure out that, and you just keep going until the planets line up and you can click publish. Scary. It was scary to do that, I have to admit. And I'm like, well, how's anybody going to know my book is out there, right? So up pops marketing, and then you get to do that. And then I'm like, well, how do you do that? So it's been quite a journey, but it's been a fun one. And as long as it stays fun, I'm in the game.
So what's the biggest difference that you've experienced with self-publishing and traditional?
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry about that. Yes. After I established my platforms, I had all these follows on social media. I had social proof. I had all this stuff. I had, oh God, I had 400 reviews on my first book, which I thought was good. A lot of writers get way more than that, but I thought that was good. And so I started querying again, because I don't know, I'm just from that generation where it was traditional publishing was kind of the thing. And I wanted that validation, I think, more than anything. Also, I wanted to learn, what is their process different from mine that I do as an indie? So I submitted to several, and Wild Rose Press accepted it, 2 of my books. And what I liked about the process was I learned the galley process, which I had never gone through before. And the galley process is when, after all the editing that you go back and forth with your editor on, which was fantastic as well, you go line by line, and each line is numbered on a sheet of paper, and then you have to actually proofread letter by letter, word by word, line by line. And that's where I really learned editing. That's where I really learned copy line editing. And I've gotten pretty good at it now, or better at it. So I can do a lot of my own now, which, thank you. So that's what I learned in traditional. Now they expect you to promote your books just like an indie. That was the disappointing part, because I kind of expected more, but no. You're still on your own to market your books. The downside is I don't earn as much royalty with trad as I do with indie, so I'm not doing it anymore. I don't plan to do any more trad books, but I'm really thankful for my experience, having learned what I did doing it. So yeah, I really like that I diversified that way, and it just helped me become a better writer as a result.
I find it very interesting because so many people, when I'm like talking on Facebook, they're always talking about how they're getting all these rejections with traditional, and people are saying, what about self-publishing? And they're like, no, no, no. But every person I have interviewed who has done both traditional and self-publishing has said they prefer self-publishing once they've done both. But they enjoyed
Well,
their experience with traditional. That's something that
yeah.
that is true, but they all ended up preferring self-publishing, which I find very
Well,
interesting.
and the income speaks for itself. I'm not going to quote actual numbers, but I was shocked when I got my 2023 numbers in for my books compared to what I earned on my indie book. I was shocked, and I was crying. So I mean, and when you sign the contract, I think you just get so overcome with excitement and everything else. It's like you push that to the back of your head or something. I don't know. I saw the number, and I saw that, yes, I knew I'd be earning less, but when it actual hits you in the bank account, that's when you go, oh my God. So yeah, that was it for me. So I'm like, no. Plus I like the control, because I didn't really like one of my covers on my trad books, and I lobbied for them to. I had a vision of it, and they wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't do it. They said, nope, this is what you're going to get. And I didn't like that loss of control. I like to have that control. So
That seems like another thing that I hear a lot is it's the control, and it's also the lack of marketing on the traditional side. I think those are the two biggest things I hear is that, they enjoyed some of the good aspects, but the part that they had the most trouble with, which was the marketing, was not the part they got help with. And so that's what one of the reasons. And then the other is they like to have that control that the book is their book. It's not anyone else's, it's their book. That's an
Yeah, there's so many different things you can do with that one book. You can do an audio book, you can make a hardback, a special edition if you want, and do Kickstarters or Patreon for those. You can do, oh man, you can do countless spin-offs, you know. You can do bonus content. I can't do any of that with my trad, you know. It's because they hold the rights to all that. So there you go.
Have you done
But
audiobooks with any of yours?
I have. The first one is an audiobook. Because I didn't quite know what I was doing, the first one was kind of long, and I had a couple readers tell me, you know, you could have told the story with 100 less words because it was 400. And I went, oh, okay. And I've since learned that yes, I could have. And I've been tempted to scale it back, but at this point, I don't want to go through it again. You know, it's like it's done, it's one and done. But for KU, Kindle Unlimited, that little puppy brings in page reads, which I love, you know, because it's all about the page reads in KU. So, audio, I couldn't afford the 12.5 per finished hours for a real narrator. And I met a wildland firefighter in Vegas who was a narrator, and she was amazing. And I wanted her to do my book so bad, but I couldn't afford it. I couldn't back then. I wasn't really gaining traction yet on the series. I'm in a lot better place now, but back then I couldn't. So I got a gig on the self-publishing show with Mark Dawson and James Blatch. And James suggested, why don't you try, they had suggested Quest publishing over in the UK. And I went, whoa, the UK, that'd be cool. So, because they have global distribution. So I went with them, and they gave me an awesome narrator. I love her to death. Her name is Tessa Flannery, and she did Alaska Spark. And I had never listened. I was too chicken to listen to it because, well, it's my own book, and I'm like, oh, I didn't want to listen to it. But I had 2 surgeries last month that just slammed me down into bed, right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to this audiobook. So I did. And I was like, why didn't I listen to this before? It was awesome the way she did it. So I can't wait to get my year's first, because I've only been with them less than a year. I can't wait to get my royalty statement to see how it's gone. And you know, that is a drawback to trad in audio, is, you know, you never know how your audio is doing until they decide to let loose a royalty statement for you. So what I'm going to do on the rest of my books is I'm going to do it, either I'm going to narrate it myself because I was a voice actor and I did acting for a whole bunch of years, or I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I'll figure something out, or, you know, find away voices maybe.
That was actually going to be my next question, is because you said that you were both a stage and a movie actor. How had that impacted your writing?
Oh, big time. Jeez. When I got into the fire and, you know, approach writing my 4th book, I had all these other stories niggling around in my brain. And I'm like, you know, they're just funny things. And I have a lot of funny friends. And I went on this cruise one time, a Caribbean cruise, Celtic Thunder, this Irish group, with a friend of mine who thought it was a strip cruise because she got it mixed up with Irish Thunder in Vegas. So we get on the cruise ship and we're in the elevator, and she goes, so where's the Irish strippers? And I'm like, and all these people are looking at her going, is there something yet we don't know about this cruise, you know? And she goes, you told me this was a stripper cruise. And I go, no, it's just a bunch of Irish guys singing. And she's like, oh God. So I thought, oh, that'd be funny to turn into a book. So I did. I wrote Irish Thunder, and it's a romantic comedy. And that just kind of got me going on romantic comedy because I love doing that so much. I was in all these Neil Simon plays, you know. I did the female version of The Odd Couple for Anchorage Community Theater, and it was so much fun. I had, when you say the lines of a great, like Neil Simon's writing, I wanted to do that. I wanted to write for other actors. So I did. I wrote a couple plays. They got staged at the Last Frontier Theater Conference in Valdez. And I wrote a couple screenplays. I took a class and wrote some screenplays. And one of them, a fire screenplay, got 3rd place in an LA film festival. So I thought, you know what? This is fun. So I just kept going with romantic comedies. I've got four, let's see, I have three out currently and one in the works. And then, yeah, so I write them alongside my fire books. I go back and forth, you know? So,
What, is there a book? This is a question I often ask. I try to ask everybody, but I sometimes forget. But what is a book, author, or a series that has really inspired your own writing? And what are you currently reading?
mm, well, for a long time, I just read in my genre because that's what they tell us to do, you know, and to keep track of what's going on out there. But I'm kind of a faster reader now, and so my tastes have just gone all over the place. So for a long time, I was reading like Linda Howard, romantic suspense, Kat Martin. I love her. I got to meet her in Vegas, and she endorsed one of my books. I was so excited. Cherry Adair, who also endorsed my books. Um, oh gosh, like I said, Diana Gabaldon for the historical, and oh man, and lately it's Lucy Score. You know, that's not romantic suspense. Well, kind of is. It kind of she puts all tropes in her books. I mean, you name a trope and it's in there. Um, I went to the library and I got Killers of the Flower Moon yesterday because when I watch a movie or a series, I want to see what the books were like, and that's what I did with Daisy Jones and the Six. I loved that series because I grew up in that era. You know, Fleetwood Mac and all that. And so I went back and I read the book by Taylor Reed Jenkins, and it was in a documentary format. It was so clever how she did it. And I loved the book. So, yeah, I'm all over the place with that, with my books. I love the Kristen Hanna books. The Great Alone, she set in Alaska. That was awesome. And her Firefly Lane. And I watched that with Katherine Heigl, and oh God, I love that series. And so I went back and I read that book. So that's kind of how I float around, you know, with different genres because I think that when you write the romance genre, you can pull all the other ones into it. You can do thriller, suspense, comedy. You can do that's what's cool about romance is you can pull everything under that umbrella. And so that's why I write in all the different genres. So who knows? Maybe someday, you know, I did write a thriller. I wrote an assassin in romance. I did do that because it was part of a multi-author collaboration we did. And that's how I got a couple of my really, really good author friends from that project. There's always something cool that comes out of everything you try to do. Even if it might not do well in the market, look what you learn doing that, is how I look at it. It's all good.
That's one of the things the last person that I interviewed said is, it's not about what you're writing, it's about what it does to you as a person. And I liked that. And that's kind of what I just heard you say. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, Lolo. I really appreciate it. But before you go, I do want to ask you the same question I ask everybody. And that is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a not yet published author?
Okay, this is going to sound like a broken record, and I'm sure you've heard a trillion people say it, but don't give up because it gets hard. And just because it gets hard doesn't mean that you go, you know what, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. Take all of the negative language out of your vocabulary, just remove it. Never, ever, ever say the words, I can't, I don't, I won't, it can't. Turn them into positives. I will, I can, this will happen, I've got this. You have to do that self talk because everybody gets imposter syndrome. God, even Stephen King got it after a while when he was writing. Everybody gets it. And you have to just keep believing in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, it just isn't going to happen. You have to make that happen. So never give up and believe in yourself. Those are the two biggest things. I still have to do that. Even with 9 titles out, I still have to do that. Because sometimes I'll be writing and I'll go, wait, I can't do that. And then I go, no, stop. I have to stop that kind of talk. So keep it positive.
What's interesting is I do have a lot of people who say never give up, but they never say the same thing. Like, even though they all say never give up, they always add their own little twist. And that's what I love. That's why I love asking that question. Like, you talked about believing in yourself with never giving up. And, when you, that's just, I probably will never stop asking that question because even though so many of you do say never give up, you always add something to it that no one else has said. Anyway,
Yes.
thank you so much again, Lolo, for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me. I also wanted to thank my listeners. If you're interested in working and learning more about her books, and you can find the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, you might also enjoy my interview with Stacy Juba, who is a chick lit writer. She specializes in fairy tale romance. And then also Cindy Hossain, who also is a romantic writer. Again, you can sign up for Lolo Paige's newsletter and get one of her novellas at lolopage.com or purchase her books, or purchase her books through the links in the show notes. And anyway, thank you again for chatting with me, Lolo.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us at Authors Alcove, the Writing Corner. We hope today's discussion has inspired and informed your writing journey. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more writers like you. And remember, we are brought to you today by the letter K, as in Knowadays, K-N-O-W, knowadays.com, a company that offers many courses from how to become a freelance writer to how to become a proofreader and editor. Also, I'm always appreciative of any of you who support me on Patreon. You can find the links in the show notes. Also, you can check out me at Authors Alcove, the Healing Place, where authors share about their books on healing and recovery. You can also find me at the Authors Alcove, the Reading Nook, where we talk about reading fantasy, sci-fi, and the occasional horror. Until next time, keep writing, keep creating, and we'll see you back in the Writing Corner.